Hey, Ting.
Hi. Hi, Mickey. Hey, we are so fortunate to have two wonderful guests today, Greg and Julian. Um, we listened to a song right before coming live called "From the Eyes of a Child," and we were going to set an intention for how we want to connect today and how we want to have a sort of playful journey together. And we didn't get to do that. We failed to uh, time it so that we can go. So I actually want to do this live with everyone, if that's okay with you. Um, so maybe I'll start. I didn't see myself actually coming to tears while listening to the song. It's one of my favorite songs, but a new discovery from this past week. And I realized that I didn't truly tune into the lyrics when I was listening to it in the previous times, like 5 times already. And there's something deeply touching in the lyrics. And as I go through life, in the special COVID times where we were given the permission to slow down, and sometimes we manage to, sometimes we don't. We discover how life is so much richer than the superficial level, how we experience it. And every time when we manage to let our senses participate, we can dive a little bit deeper. And when we allow our emotions to participate, we can feel a little better what the intangible and the invisible, and what humans can have the fortune to experience beyond just the animalistic reactivity in life. I'm just so filled with gratitude that I'm here today with 4 very authentic and beautiful souls, playful, talented, yet real. So my intention is to facilitate as much, observe the magic that might happen in this show, and just be kindful and mindful in this journey.
Thank you.
Mickey, do you want to?
What would you like us to share?
Your intention, if you have any intention of seeing how
So when you were playing the music, I was just sort of drifting a little bit, and just kind of enjoying the kind of, I don't have to do something for just a minute or two and be able to just sort of let the music take me. And I think that sometimes we don't really find time to just have silence and listen or be, I guess, without getting attached to every thought. And so my thoughts kind of just flowed past instead of me getting hooked on them. And I've been trying to practice not getting hooked on thoughts and letting that, like, seeing that my brain just thinks things sometimes, and then it's okay to let them roll away. And in the song, I was just like noticing I was looping on something, and then I just like let it go. And I've been trying to practice that. It's something you and I have talked about. I think my intention for today is to sort of both have some fun with. I consider Greg a sort of mentor and a good friend that I've really learned a lot from, and kind of have fun with him and have fun with a new friend, Julian, and also just sort of celebrate even if we screw up a little bit, because it's sort of part of the fun of learning is stumbling and then going, oh, okay, let me try that again. And so that's what we're going to do today. That's my hope or intention, is that we're going to sort of playfully experiment. What about Julian? Julian, what's your intention? What would you love to focus on or think about and work on?
Um, as I was listening to the song as well, I kind of went with the flow as well, but sometimes I try not to structure my thoughts a little bit like you were saying, Mickey. But then words come up and I don't know, I always have a pen. I just write a word down. And that's usually how I don't know, that's how I kind of capture it's happening in my brain without really structuring it. So the words I wrote down were rediscover, unlearn and relearn, and connect. So I think that I'll throw those words out there, and maybe I can say that that's my intention in a sense. Like
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about children, something maybe we're supposed to know a lot about, but I also want to stay humble about learning what or discovering the amount or the breadth of what we don't know and what we can also it's not only
Mm.
about knowing, it's also about experiencing and sharing and where we can connect on. So that's what I'll put out there for that question on
Mm.
intent.
And Greg, how about you?
Well, first, how joyful to be here. So thank you. I have unexpected life connections to each of you. And so there's a real joy in that. As I listened to the piece that you played, Ting, I recognized the voice immediately. And I recognized her voice as a singer in the movie Frozen 2, which is played on replay often here in my household because I have two young daughters. And I could probably sing all of Frozen, Frozen 2 to you. But I mention this because music is a lot like food, right? It elicits memories. And so as I heard the music, it immediately took me to my living room and my sofa and imagining both of my girls on my side, right? And just the calmness of that moment watching a show, a movie that brings them so much joy. And so listening to it brought me calm, and that calmness helped me to embrace my intent for today. And my intent is just to embrace the anxiety, the nervousness, the excitement that I have about being here to play this game and to do something that I don't know what I'm about to do, and I am going to embrace it fully.
Thanks, Greg.
Wow. So grateful. So before we start the game, we do want to briefly introduce you. In terms of, let me see, Julian, your one sentence about yourself.
Yes, so as you can see below the screen or on the screen, I work as Urban N5 coordinator and a fellow in the early years, but what I'm really looking at is how do we better design urban spaces and cities to weave into it empathy, so a responsiveness of the space and the person using the space. And I focus specifically on the lived experience of people who are with children or who are children themselves. Don't know if that was.
Yeah.
Hey, Julian,
Was that good? Great.
In that description, it said Urban 95. Can you tell us what 95 means?
Yes, 95 refers to 95 centimeters, which is, according to the World Health Organization, the healthy height of a 3-year-old, global average. And so it's about taking the perspective of the child and to revisit the city or the urban space, or it can be also any space, your home or anything.
Mickey, is that why you're sitting so?
Come on! I got sent to the kids' table. I'm just at the kids' table, which I remember vividly when we were kids having, like, when we had like Thanksgiving or something, there'd be like the big table, and then they'd set up this little card table with us, and we'd be like, yeah, we don't want to be over the big table. And we would like be messing around and playing all the time. But I think this perspective taking is huge. Julian, I really appreciate that you shared that. And it's so hard for us to understand sometimes, even though we all are like, well, we're experts. We were children once, but we don't remember it actually, and it's so hard. But what I love about kids is they're like natural scientists. I think, they're like, let me throw this food and see what my parents do. Oh, look at that!
Trial and error, right?
Yeah, there's very good. I know, very scientific. Greg,
I would guess 95 centimeters is also the height. When you see a great teacher or a great librarian and a kid asks a question, they get down on their knee, right? And they get to the height of the child. Bet you
they just look in their eyes. Yeah.
They establish a connection there, physically, but also it's more than just physical at the same size.
Yeah. I just stirred something because I'm a designer, and so I'm always interested in kind of how do you design for different people and be human centered. And a long time back, I was talking to someone who does medical apps, and the app is for children that are going through some really serious health challenges, and they were trying to figure out how to kind of encourage the kids to continue taking either a medication or doing things that they had to do kind of daily. It was a chronic challenge. And they ended up lowering the horizon line differently in the interface. So when they had like an avatar talking to the child, they actually found that having an avatar that's horizon line, the eye line, was above the child, was actually very intimidating to the child, and it just seemed like another authority figure telling them what to do, like the doctor, the mom, the whatever. They found that when they lowered the horizon line, so it was actually a child a little smaller than the child, and it was like this kid was able to relate to like their younger brother or their younger sister. It gave them a feeling of agency. And they actually found that compliance went up because the kid actually was kind of like almost trying to lead by example to their younger child, in this case, an avatar that they were like having a conversation with. And I thought that was stunning. I was like, just horizon line play. Like, what are these little, and that's exactly what Julian, you mentioned. And so Greg, if you could encapsulate who you are in a sentence, what would you say?
I'm a Pittsburgh kid who gets to work in support of Pittsburgh's kids today.
Oh. Wait, and you have a new book coming out.
To
be, yeah. Can you show us?
So this book is entitled "When You Wonder, You're Learning: Mr. Rogers' Enduring Lessons for Raising Creative, Curious, Caring Kids." So those of you who don't know Mr. Rogers, icon of American children's television for decades, filmed his iconic program, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, right here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, beginning in 1968 and aired until 2001. So this book is
something
really,
like more than 600 episodes, right? Over decades.
Nearly 1,000
or
episodes.
900, yeah, nearly 1,000. Wow. Okay.
Wow.
And the thing about Fred Rogers, and the reason that my co-author Ryan Rudzeski and I have written about him, is that essentially Fred Rogers left us blueprints about learning, connecting what is forever timeless and classic about learning with what is innovative, disruptive, and radical. And as we look to a post-pandemic future, a post-pandemic learning future for kids and their families and educators, we can look to a surprising place in the work of Fred Rogers. And that's what the book is all about.
Is there some kind of
you have a t-shirt on. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Ting.
Oh, yeah.
Very Fred Rogers sensibility. Look for the helpers.
Yeah, you had another t-shirt that I remember seeing a bunch of people having around Pittsburgh, and it was "Be the Kind Kid." So where did that come from?
That, speaking about kids and agency. So a local school district initially had an all-girls makers club, met once a week, and it was kids from kindergarten through 6th grade. It's now a co-ed club. Some years ago, one of the girls, a 1st grader, said to the teacher, rather than talking about anti-bullying, can we just talk about what it means to be a good person, a good human being? And it was that conversation that led to the idea, hashtag be the kind kid, right? And the kids ended up producing initially t-shirts, you know, then wristbands and other products. But long story short, these kids in this makers club that initially, you know, had these t-shirts screen printed, I think have sold more than 100,000 t-shirts to kids, not only in Pittsburgh, but from Nova Scotia to Southern California. And so kids all across the country, typically on Wednesdays, Wear It Wednesday, they'll wear their hashtag Be the Kind Kid t-shirt. And it's just, it's lovely. It's a lovely sentiment, right? But it's peer led, you know, kid to kid. But it's also, it's a reminder that environment drives behavior. And we can talk about and be good and kind to one another and create a culture and environment where we embrace that core humanity rather than saying we're not going to do something.
Yeah, and just to relate to Greg's point about the importance of the positive being brought to a salient position so that our attention can actually be paid to it, as much as our natural sort of instinctive reaction of negativity bias, right? As we know, for survival reasons, we are more prone to be attentive to a negative news or something negative because we want to survive better, we want to learn from it. At the same time, when we do overfire these emotions, it can be very stressful and causing a lot of anxiety. So balancing that, because there's a lot of misfiring these days when we're making hundreds and more decisions, and you know, in the primitive times, we still left with that instinct of being over attentive to the negative. Yes. You know, how do we augment that heuristic when bringing in sort of the positivity, so that there is also nourishment instead of just fear and feeling of stress, survival stress.
You know, Ting, yeah. I just wanted to relates to this too, and what Greg just said. I'm slowly reading the new book that's coming out soon, and I'm reading it, and there's a foreword by Mr. Rogers' wife, Joanne, and you know, she spent decades, you know, kind of watching him do this, and she said, look, he wasn't a hero, he wasn't like a mythical figure. He had to work every day, and she said that when he would relate to it, he said, try the best to make goodness attractive, and that's one of the toughest assignments you'll ever have. And I really think that's fascinating. And then she related that being there for each other and supporting each other is what everything is about. And so it's that combination of both. Yes, we could get hooked on this bias of prepare for disaster and, you know, sort of the doom scrolling world, or we can actually help people find, you know, the kindness, find support, and make goodness attractive, and actually draw our attention to it. But it's not an easy task, particularly where, you know, the news and everything else kind of, you know, if it bleeds, it leads, and that's kind of what titillates and what creates or drags our attention.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason why we have this show. So I think this is a great segue into playing the game. Not just a thing. It's meant to capture the idea of how things around us are triggers for us to manage better our automatic processes in the brain, so that we can support the right decisions that is more aligned with our values without a lot of cognitive resources needed, without self-control, willpower being employed. As we, you know, almost 50% of our decisions are actually more habitual and automatically done. And sometimes a trigger can lead to a very deeply conscious and non-automatic activity, but we do need those triggers to almost structure our life and bringing the balance of the good. So the rule of the game is that we'll pick one crisis, we're going to pick two things, put it in three contexts, and we'll do a brainstorm of 3 minutes. And so you can go as wild as you can think of any idea that would connect the crisis, would repurpose these two things to solve this crisis in the context as constraints would be perfect. And
Ting, you've got that kind of slot machine, because we're gonna kind of, we're gonna vote, we're gonna flip some things, we're gonna pull a slot machine, it's gonna tell us the crisis, the things, and the context, and then we're just gonna try to come up with some ideas. And because we're only giving ourselves 2 or 3 minutes, it's not like we need to be too attached to them. It's just sort of pretty quick. Yeah,
absolutely. And so let's see what is the so before we kind of dive into the two things, I want to talk a little bit about the routine because it is in habits, routines, rituals that we structure our life activities. So we do want you to solve the crisis through a morning routine or ritual or habit. And in this,
what's the crisis going to be today? What's our kind of focus here?
Right. So it's this connection with another, and we want this another to be a child. So we want to
so that's our focus today.
More quality connection with a child. And among the followers, Greg, you have the fortune to have wonderful new humans in your household. So we have all vote for you to be our target user for the solutions that we'll be designing. So Julie and Mickey will be the core designers for you. And of course, you're welcome to participate in that.
You're going to be a designer too, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So this is just to give you some sense of what are the routines in the morning. Your first breath, drink, toilet visit, shower, move, meditate, your breakfast, journaling, online work break. All of these can be redesigned and to bringing these new potential routine habit. Now, we would love for you to share with us, since both of you are actually experts in the area, what kind of routine or habit that or you practice that actually promote quality connection with the child.
So yeah, Greg, if you looked at this is kind of morning routines. If you looked at this, when might you think would be a good time to connect with your children? Or have you already got a habit of sort of connecting?
Well, it's the case that my younger daughter often comes into the bed between me and my wife every morning. It's usually in the middle of the night, but there she awakes next to me, right? And she always awakes with like 5 or 6 questions, which when you're tired, maybe not getting enough sleep like I am, it's easy to go like, oh my gosh, no. But I've learned the importance of acknowledging those questions. Like, okay, that's really interesting. She's woken up with these questions. Let's talk about, let's take a moment and, not rush out of bed, but let's just lie here in the bed a little bit and talk about some of those questions.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be in the bedroom, and it could be really early in the morning. Might
just
be
the
first
thing after waking up.
I'll tell you, like this morning, it was. I just found out it's National Unicorn Day. What's that? How are we going to celebrate?
That's a tough question.
Amazing.
National Unicorn Day.
What did you say?
I know it involves
what did you say?
sparkles somehow.
Well, my first response was, where is it National Unicorn Day?
Yeah.
But then I said, well, actually, maybe another thing is sometimes you don't have all the answers. And I said, well, we're going to have to wonder that one together.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Julian, how about you? When would you imagine having a good connection with another during the morning? Just really close connection with another. Or when would you love to have a close connection with somebody that's in that target range, children that you're trying to learn from or that you're trying to build a connection with?
Yeah, I can't relate to personal experiences as much as Greg does. I can just rely a little bit more on more of a work-based kind of focus. But I think that for me, I think a lot of the thing I focus on is how do you reduce stress throughout the day, and a lot of it goes through how do you reduce stress throughout routines, because we know that when you manage to reduce stress with parents or people who are just around children, it's going to lead to more of these kind of connection moments with kids quite naturally. So I would say, so either you reduce stress or you kind of find a moment where you can increase interaction. And one of the things that I love is I live here in the Netherlands, and one of the ways that we move around when we get to places. So after we leave the house, I don't know if that fits exactly in the routine, but when we go to place, to work, to school, to daycare, whatever, there's the act of cycling that I love, because I keep seeing in the Netherlands babies and small kids that are just sitting on like the front of bikes or behind bikes, and they keep talking and pointing and like to each other or to their parents, and have this whole dialogue while they're moving through the city. And it's also all the triggers around them are like, there's a tree there, there's a dog there, we're stopping at the red line, what does that mean? And there's this whole journey that I haven't experienced myself, but I see it as an interactive moment. Whereas in my childhood, these journeys happened with cars, and when I'm in the car, my parents are busy driving, and it's a whole different connection. And I'm not so close to them physically. I'm on the back seat, they're in the front seat.
Julian, isn't it true that everybody rides a bike? Like when I went and visited Amsterdam, it felt like there were 10-story buildings just to store bikes. Like the parking lot for bike was much bigger than for cars. It's like bikes everywhere.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the number is 60%, I think, but I think that it's a majority, and it's 60% of trips are done on bicycles. You know, Ting, you lived in the Netherlands as well.
Yeah.
60%. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I actually want to.
It also means that kids also get on bikes really early on, and I think that it's a beautiful way to interact with each other and interact with the city. So that's what my answer would be on building up more interaction. I would say make sure that kids can get on. That going on a bike with your child is actually a viable option.
What new routine could we do? What new products? What new things that would actually help during that ride or during that interaction?
And I think it's very, Mickey, I think here I want to point out that when we think about factors that really matter for quality of connection, Julian is referring to two things. One is how stress and anxiety can block the adults from having the mindfulness or the presence to actually carry out the intention of wanting to connect with a child. So sometimes like all parents want to connect well with their children, but you have the intention behavior gap. And one of these core barrier of following through that good intention is stress and anxiety, right? So like I can't, I'm in a hurry, I can't afford the time. So like Greg said, when you actually manage to like, oh, let me take the time to actually answer this. This is maybe important, right? So you actually exert self-control there. But if we can, create a less stressful life, we would need less self-control to actually execute on that intention. And the other element is exercise, right? So we know how important exercise boosts productivity throughout the day, reduces stress and anxiety, make one feel really good about oneself. So if we can generalize this a little bit, right? Not necessarily everybody will be on the bike, but can we think about an outdoor moment? It's about movement, vitality, right? Exercise that you can do together with the child. That one, it reduces your stress. Second, it gives you a moment of connection and maybe even allow for dialogue. That's connecting with even nature and the universe around you.
Nice. So what routine are we picking, Ting? How do you want to resolve?
So the question is, Greg, does it relate? Can you connect to the idea of doing maybe taking a 15 minutes or how much time you have in your morning routine that you can do something around exercise or being outdoor with your children? Is that something feasible at all?
Well, it was interesting because as Julian was talking, I was thinking like, what's my equivalent experience? And the equivalent experience is walking out of my garage and the 2-minute walk that either I or my wife takes with the kids down to the bus stop, right? I know a school bus is a uniquely American thing, but you know, that walk together and then waiting at the bus stop together is sort of the equivalent of that Dutch parent, you know, riding on that bicycle probably to school with that child.
Perfect. Okay.
And also the
like
waiting
it.
dimension is interesting there because you're waiting for the bus, and that's like such an opportunity for an interaction or something, or whatever.
I like this. Yeah.
Waiting is a big moment that we can design for, I think.
That's awesome. So now let's pick 2 things that will actually add to this design challenge. So we're going to redesign we're going to take that routine of walking your child to the bus stop and have a few moments of waiting together. And we'll pick 2 things and we'll create an idea that would incorporate these 2 things. Greg and Julian, can you give me a number, each of you?
8.
Okay, Mickey, you help review.
Yeah, sure. Wallpaper. Whoa, okay, that's a thing.
Outdoors.
Maybe it's in the vestibule when you're walking out to get to the bus stop. We don't know, but that's one of the things you could use. Okay,
yeah,
what's the other
you
number?
can do it before walking out, right? You can set something on the wall.
Yeah, maybe there's something that happens in the wall.
2 daughters.
Oh, okay. There's a theory behind it. 2 for 2 daughters.
And then post it.
A pen and post-it. Okay, those are things. I wonder how we could use those. Oh, that's perfect. You got them. How could we use those on the way to the bus stop or in that routine? That's really good. Okay, Ting, what's next?
We're gonna pick the context. We're gonna see. So let's create a random number. 4. Nikki, can you review what 4? What are the contexts behind 4?
Yes, I can. Let's see. What's the context? We're pulling off 4.
10 years in the future.
It's 10 years in the future. Now, wait.
Cool.
Are Greg's kids still like 7 and 9, or have they been frozen in time? Yes.
Well, imagine it's a time machine.
They're 7 and 9 plus 10.
Yeah. No, we're imagining ourselves in a time machine. We're already 10 years into the future.
We've jumped in a time machine. So have the kids. It's 10 years in the future. Now, the reason this context matters is because this is to give us a sense that you can actually do something a little more magical. Because maybe in 10 years in the future, there's that Post-it note, that wallpaper, that walk between the house and the bus might have some new ways of doing things. So you can actually kind of open your mind to, it's not just today, but if you suddenly both stepped into a time machine and stepped out and the kids were still young and you were walking them there 10 years in the future, what might you imagine? You know, how might it be different in a way that actually fosters wonder or fosters, you know, this connection with a child?
Yeah. So now we're gonna go for 3 minutes.
Well, give me a moment because I just want to put all the parts together here. So just give me a moment because I want to bring them together. But yeah, why don't you orient them? Can you grab their attention and bring them over to the 3-minute section?
I'm bringing to the 3-minute break section. And also, Greg, you in your household, besides you and your 2 daughters, you live with your wife. Is that right? Do you have pets?
That's right, my wife.
Any other living things?
Plants.
Okay. Wonderful. What's your wife's name?
Her name is Yuling.
Yuling. Awesome. So feel free to take your plants and your wife as also your contextual constraints or supporters. And so in your 3 minutes brainstorm, and I'm going to bring you to the board. And we're gonna start 3 minutes counter. What kind of music would you guys like? Upbeat or calm?
Frenetic.
Julian, do you want frenetic too? All right, let's see. Sunshine and smooth. Okay.
Did you want to give us a bonus
Cosmic
thing,
vibes.
Ting?
What?
Did you want to give us a bonus thing?
You
not?
choose.
I just didn't know if
You
you-
choose.
yeah.
I want to give you autonomy. You pick. I think we're good with this for now.
I think we're good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do that. Okay. So the 3 minutes.
So we pick one of the post-its and then we just write our
Pick
idea on
your color, claim it, and put your name in it.
Okay, I'll go for green.
And right above the post-its, you can see the routine, the two things, and the context, just for reference. They're just sort of above your post-it. And so, like, I'll grab this middle post-it and say, Mickey. Apparently, I don't know how to type my name. And Ting, have you started the timer yet? No, don't start it yet. Okay, wait.
Yeah.
Greg's in, Mickey's in, Julian's in. Okay, now let's remind ourselves. We're trying to make a connection, a really quality connection with our child. The routine is walking to the bus stop. And the products that are around us that we can try to reimagine or try to redesign to actually help us with this routine are wallpaper and pen and Post-it. So you could either design a new way of doing something with a pen and Post-it 10 years in the future on that walk, or a new way to do wallpaper, or a new thing that actually uses pen, paper, wallpaper, and any other context between the walkway. But you're going to type up a new idea. It's going to be like a concept that we could download, or we could buy, or we could actually do that we discover in the future in 10 years. And you're like, wow, this is what I did with my kid when I went in the time machine. What could you do? All right, that's the background. It sounds confusing, Greg. Don't worry. I know you're a little anxious about this. It's going to be great.
I'm on board. I got an idea.
You're on? You got an idea. All right.
I play.
Time is ticking. Time is ticking. All right. And if you're all watching this on YouTube, go ahead and add comments in YouTube if you've got some ideas. And if you're watching this after this thing ran and you want to email us, you can actually send us an email. Ting's got the email that she'll pull up in a little bit of your ideas for it. Okay, time is ticking. I'm going to stop talking.
Julian and Mickey, you're designing for Greg.
Yep.
Remember that. Okay.
Yep.
One minute left.
Ting, I should never have asked for frenetic music. I spilled my water all over my computer.
Yay!
Yay!
That is a total failure.
Come on,
still
celebrate,
an
Greg.
idea,
Let's
but
get the
I
arms
failed
up. Get
on
the arms
Now
up.
you know. Now you know. We'll switch to
21
music
seconds.
next. 18. Oh, let me see if I can change the music halfway.
I did it myself.
Yeah.
My desk is getting clean now.
Sometimes it really takes like, sometimes my cup got broken and I was like, oh, so good that I didn't need to throw it away. But it's just cool. Let's see. Bring everybody back. All right. Let's see what ideas are there.
Mickey's drawing live.
I know. I just was like, I'm going to have to just illustrate a little bit of the key things here. There's a bus. There's kids. Okay. Ting, who do you want to go first?
People. Greg gets to choose. Whose idea do you want to hear first?
I want to hear from Julian first.
Yay.
Okay. Julian.
Sure. So my idea was around rediscovering your morning walk every day in a different way and making that interactive. So the wallpaper comes in before leaving the house. It's like a magic or like a high-tech 10 years in the future tech wallpaper where you get like a random prompt before you leave the house, and also your daughters as well. And then it's like something that will, well, as you walk to the bus stop, you're gonna like think about the environment you're in, walking through differently. So I don't know if the prompt's like butterfly, you're just gonna notice butterflies or butterfly-shaped clouds or whatever. And when you get to the bus stop, there's a pen and paper there, and then together you kind of just like, I don't know. It could be improved, but you can like write what came up all together on one post-it, to like do something that's in common. I'm not sure exactly what, and that kind of you rediscover the walk every day differently, and then you put it on the bus stop while you're waiting for the bus. It's like a mini ritual, and then when they come back from school, the post-it is ideally still there. Post-it is still there, and then it kind of reminds them of that interaction moment in the morning. A bit complicated, maybe, but
at the end of the day.
Yep.
Say that again.
That it comes back at the end of the day because the Post-it has this awesome adhesive and it's on the stop sign or whatever.
Yeah,
I like it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right.
It reminds you, and then from the morning.
Well,
like
that takes advantage of persistence, right? Because like actually that bus stop is there every day. I love that. It makes me think about like it would be neat because actually multiple kids come to that bus stop. I think if it's anything like when my kid was young, other kids in that block would all kind of be meeting at the bus stop, and I'd meet the other parents sometimes. And it would be kind of interesting if each of the parents had a different prompt with their kids on the wallpaper. But as they all got to the bus stop, you got to see, oh, Greg was looking at butterflies, but my job was to discover caterpillars or leaves or something else. And it would all aggregate around kind of a new way to talk about things. I love it.
And Mickey, you're right.
Okay,
there are like 15 kids and often one or two parents come. So it's like this little community gathering every morning.
Yeah. I think that's a beautiful space that I've never thought about as actually a place to design for. Because it's an ephemeral moment. And it's a very community moment. So do you end up talking to, I'm curious, Greg, do you end up talking to the other parents or the other kids? Do your kids talk to the other kids, or is everyone just stand there stoically? Or
no. I mean, some of the families you're close friends with, and some of them you only see at the bus stop, right? But it's definitely a place where, because we're all talking to each other, you get a pulse of like, oh, this is what's happening in this neighborhood, or this is what's happening in this family. Maybe I didn't know that. So it's actually a really important community building moment.
Oh, nice. Okay, Greg, who do you want to hear next? Do you want to go, or do you want to have me go? No, you should go next, Greg.
Okay, I'll go. So during the pandemic, my girls started skateboarding, which I love because I used to be a skateboarder. So I was imagining that the skateboard somehow is constructed that it has digital wallpaper the way like your computer does. And that the girls could redesign it every morning, like based on their mood, what they're feeling about, like which alone prompts like an interesting conversation, right? Like, why did you just choose that magical unicorn day wallpaper? But then I'm imagining on the wall, like then I'm imagining we can program these skateboards with digital Post-its. And a lot like this game, you know, so imagine as we're skating down the street together, I go, okay, Catherine, you click on one, and Caroline, you click on the other one. And then we play a game as we're going to the school bus stop based on the random things that we've uncovered in the Post-it notes. And it just allows for, you know, fun banter, but also, you know, a cool, wondering curiosity moment among us, and something that we can play in the quick 2 minutes. Like, what do you do?
Nice. I love it. Yeah.
Right. So.
Yeah. Like make a new mythical creature, unicorns, and something that you find on the walk, you know, or whatever. And maybe they can use their finger to kind of draw right on the skateboard, and it becomes like your Sharpie, but it becomes then the cool decoration for the day. I love it. I love the idea of that you thought about skateboard and wallpaper. That's perfect. All right. I tried my best to draw it, but I don't think I did a very good job. Zoom out a little bit, Ting.
Oh, wow.
Sorry, he should be holding her hand. Okay. Yeah. I don't know what I was doing here, but here's the sort of unicorn bizarre thing.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah. And
so,
here we're at the bus stop. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see Mickey's idea.
Greg, that's a weird thing I didn't know we had in common. So I worked at a skateboard shop in Evanston, Illinois, and all the high school kids would come in, and my job was to help assemble skateboards. We had a half pipe in the back, and it was like everybody needed like the Bones Brigade and all the things added to them. And it was the graphic on the bottom of the skateboard was always like, oh my gosh, look at that new one.
Yep.
Yeah, very cool. All right, mine real quick. Mine is levitating swarms of knowledge nuggets. That's probably not the name that would be the hashtag, but as Greg and the kids walk out the door, they click on topics that glow on the wallpaper in the vestibule. And then as they walk toward the bus stop, all these levitating Post-it notes fly around them like kind of sprinkles and sparkles and things. And they're all focused on questions and ideas and history and future thoughts that are about the topic that they clicked on in the vestibule. So as they're walking towards the bus stop, they're kind of swirled around, and they get to pick and chase after them and pick out one, and then actually read about it in the future or read about that point. And so it's kind of like swarm technology probably comes to Post-its in 10 years, I'm imagining. And it also lets them kind of tap into the history. So I was thinking Wikipedia would be attached in there. So as they're walking to the thing, they'd actually learn about stuff, about things around them. You know, like I just watched Perfect Planet, which is by David Attenborough. And I swear, in a square inch of grass, they have a whole television show. There's like amazing things everywhere. There's like, oh my gosh. And it's about celebrating that we live on a perfect planet. So, you know, how could we actually make that more like a prompt and a play with Post-it notes on the way to the bus stop? Anyway, okay. So that was round one.
I love this one.
Okay, how do you feel? How do you feel? How do we do so far, Greg? You're the user.
You're the judge. You have to pick a winner.
I have to pick a winner?
I'm on
Really?
3 ideas. Really?
So I like.
So don't take it personal.
I like the playfulness of Julian and Mickey. So I'm gonna go with Mickey because I like this swarm of like ideas that you can physically pull down.
Yeah.
And then because then I'm thinking of
it's a great idea.
It's not just me and my daughters. It's like I can imagine all the kids playing it in a pretty awesome way.
Probably the other parents would invest in like big butterfly nets for those things too. Like, we're going to actually help get them even better.
They're like little Post-it drones.
Yeah, that's product extension. We're going to have butterfly nets. Okay, now Ting, explain to us what we're supposed to do now.
Now, I want to give one scientific insight about quality of connection.
Okay.
We're going to play a quick guessing game here. So you have to guess did loneliness increase during pandemic? A, increase, B, decrease, same as before. Please type in your answer in the private chat. Or you can change your name. Or you can change your name
type,
to
type a letter.
reflect.
What do you mean? No, just type it in the private chat. Okay. Should I vote too, Ting? Let's see.
Yes. Oh yeah. I think you know it's fine. Okay, we have C and A. Same as before. Increase. Yeah. All right.
See, I think actually I changed my answer maybe from last week. Maybe I changed my answer. Oh no.
So I did this with in a class in Cornell University for 60 students. We only have 2 students who got it right.
What happened?
So what happened?
Wait, what did Greg say? Greg said C.
Wow.
Same as before pandemic. Julian said A, increased, loneliness increased. What was the actual answer?
Most people guess increase. So statistically speaking, there's no change. So Greg, congratulations.
I did it. All right.
if anything, it decreased a little bit. So there's one study in UK, one study in US. Now, before I review anything, Greg, would you like to share with us why you think that it's no change?
Well, it's only because in being a curious person, reading a lot about teen mental health and being surprised by some of the survey data about teens and mental health and loneliness, pointing to not the expectation that loneliness had increased, but in fact had either remained the same or decreased.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you actually got that from data, but this is very counterintuitive, right? Intuitively, we would think people are not seeing each other much during the pandemic, so much isolation, they should suffer even more in loneliness. So one scientific insight here that I would love for you to embed in the second round of 3 minutes, it's the idea of what kind of conversation can bond you most effectively. So in 1990s, a group of psychologists conducted a study comparing small talk and no small talk. In their very first study, it was an hour-and-a-half conversation. They matched people, strangers, and they have these prompt questions. So small talk, no small talk. It turns out that no small talk was much more effective in bonding people faster and closer and better, right? And what are these kind of questions? Typically get people to share vulnerably about themselves, right?
So instead of small talk being like, how's the weather or stuff like that, you're saying that didn't work.
When was the last time you cried?
Really curious prompts. Okay.
If your 10-year-old self looking at you now, how would he think about your life at the moment? Something really deep that we don't usually feel comfortable jumping into for strangers. No small talk.
So this is from Ting's lab, and it's actually got questions in there that are totally not small talk. They are like, I played this with people I didn't know for a dinner thing, and it was like, holy moly, in like 15 minutes we felt we knew each other so much better than random people that I'd spent a long time with it.
Wait, so where do we get that?
I think
B-Labs or whatever.
Yeah. as a gratitude gesture.
It's the game show prize.
Irrational lab.
Can I get one too?
I just want to give you one of the questions I just pulled at random from the deck. You have your own island and get to make the first law. What would it be? We don't have to answer now.
You have your own island.
That's very different than saying, how's the weather in Pittsburgh? Oh, I guess it's okay. Oh, yeah, I noticed the Steelers won again or something. Yeah, which is small talk.
It's counterintuitive that it gets us out of the comfort zone, right? Yeah.
We got to get to our next little chunk.
Sounds good. So what I'd love for you to consider in the next round is to think about what kind of content or how do you get you and your child to get into a no small talk conversation? What kind of design, because it's not our natural tendency to go there. Just to remind you, like I try to apply this in my own life. I put that card in the dining table. And every time when I try to propose it to my husband, I feel like I'm offending him. It's like, we need these cards to kind of get to a good conversation. Are you kidding me? Right? Like we feel offended by it. It's not easy to actually get into it. But once we did, we love it, right? Okay. So you have another 3 minutes. Go to the Miro, and I'm gonna start timer. Let's bring you.
So we have to refine the idea,
You can.
Mickey's idea.
You could take Mickey's idea or extend it, or you could really pretty much, take your own and add little elements of something else to it. But try to think about how to actually double down on no small talk, because we actually know that it leads to a quality connection. So that's pretty resiliently proven. So getting deeper faster. So I sometimes just copy one of the ideas I feel like stealing and then bring it over and then just add to it. You could choose what to do. You want to pull back up the Miro board, Ting?
Yep.
And there's a little area. Do you want to grab our attention and bring us over to scientific redesign?
No. Oh, yes. I already bring everybody there.
Okay.
Why did I say no?
Yay! She said no.
All right.
All right. Do you want to set the timer?
Yes.
Oh my
yes.
gosh.
Sunshine Jam. I'm gonna pick for you. Let's see.
All right. 3 minutes is counting down.
No.
Do you want an extra second?
I want an extra like 3 minutes. All right.
All right. Pen. Dang. I know. I feel like I just really got rolling on it.
I know. I felt like is there round 3?
Okay, click, if you could both click off of the Post-it note, just because that way it won't be highlighted. So click your like mouse just somewhere else, just so it's not gray. There you go. Okay, who's gonna go first?
Mickey.
All right, I'm gonna go first. All right. So I just said, okay, all that stuff about the drone nuggets we already talked about, but we're also going to make the invisible visible. Everything that has to do with that morning ritual will be about making it okay to feel the feelings you're feeling. And I just remember this beautiful, a few different Mr. Rogers episodes that were actually about the madness you felt, that you just wanted to really be mad about things. And
What
he
do
did
you do with
it.
the mad that you feel?
What do you do with the mad that you feel? You know, and it's a beautiful piece. And in fact, probably it's in the clip from Washington, D.C. when he did save, I think, public television. But the notion is that each week the kids pick from a list of invisible things, feelings, sadness, madness, happiness, connection, being uncomfortable, being confused. And the drones in the walkway then prompt these playful questions about these invisible things and make them visible. They become little floating things. And the whole thing is that the goal is to let you be comfortable with feeling feelings. You can see them. They can, maybe they swarm together and create kind of a three-dimensional little sculpture of that invisible thing. And it gives people, oh, I love this. Ting, is that a book about permission to feel? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, could we give people permission to feel? Like, because, you could be in the pouring rain walking to this bus stop, and you could either be really pissed off that you're in the pouring rain, or you can be like, I'm in the pouring rain.
Yeah.
What does it feel like? What is it like to be in the pouring rain? And so the drones would actually take context and environment into account and give you a chance to be able to re-feel something in a new way. And it really goes all the way back to Frankel, and the time that he spent in a concentration camp, and he saw people that had just as much health as he did, and they didn't make it. And it was all about that gap between what they felt and what was happening to them, and then what they chose to actually have as a mindset that actually led to them surviving or not. Viktor Frankl talks about this way back in World War II. So how do we help kids actually have psychological flexibility? And one of the core ways of having psychological flexibility is to just become an observer of it's okay to have feelings.
And the empowerment of having some sense of control instead of.
But so much of these they're so invisible. They're trapped in us, and that's why I was hoping to make them visible. Okay, Julian, go next.
Yeah.
I love that idea, Mickey. It's amazing. I love the idea of bringing feelings into the mix. I love it.
Julian, go.
Amazing. So for me, I kind of took the swarm idea and then kind of mixed it with the no small talk card. So basically the post-its that are swarming around people, as soon as you're there with other parents and other kids, there becomes no small talk cards, and you kind of prompted to engage. Instead of talking about the weather or whatever you would usually, I imagine, talking at a bus stop, you prompt them to actually have a deep conversation. So either kids to kids, parents to parents, or like you can mix as well, ages, of course. And then the question kind of stay on the bus stop. I like that idea of them staying there, so that when you get back, or when your kids get back from school or whatever, next time you're at the bus stop, you kind of get reminded of the meaningful, deep conversations you've had with your neighbor, or with your neighbors in your community, and you get like, maybe you can follow up with them, or maybe you can, the bus becomes this place where you build deep connections rather than just this transient place where you wait. So it's just changing nature of the interactions happening at that spot, using the no small talk cards. I don't know how realistic that is.
Yeah.
It can make for very heavy mornings.
I mean, there's a bunch of them, and I love it.
Yeah.
I think it would lead to something really cool.
Love it that even though we're setting ourselves up for 10 years down the line, this is actually quite realistic if you can implement already now, right? So if you imagine,
we could prototype this today.
You can put different post-it notes using those questions, and each day you would just draw one, randomly kind of pick one even at home before you go on that trip. Yeah, Julian, love it. So wonderful. Oh, there's Julian's idea being painted.
Beautiful.
John.
All right, this is the best I could do. Short notice.
All right.
All right, Greg, your turn.
Yeah, so I was inspired by Julian's idea before of those Post-its being, remaining at the bus stop so that they're there when you get back. So I was imagining, Nikki, your swarm technology, it's embedded with AI. So it's listening to the banter, the conversation between you and your kids, or maybe other kids and adults. And then it develops a question that it develops a hard question that it wants to propose for you all to have conversation about, but it doesn't send it to you then. It sends it to you hours later, just before dinner time, right? And it's like this virtual table talk that you receive then in your home that then prompts a question at dinner time about something where your day started, but it's now a more serious matter. And what I like about that too is it gives you time and space, right? So no one's like rushing to answer, like, oh, the school bus is coming, let's talk about this important thing really quickly, right? It's delivered at a time. It delivered at a time later in the day when there's time and space to have Ting, like you and your husband, that conversation. But it's all prompted by the playful interaction of that swarm technology as you go to the bus stop hours earlier in the morning.
I love it. All right. I tried to draw a little bit of that. I like this notion of tying in AI. Well done. I like just pulling in, like, we kind of see it today, but we don't actually think of it as having goals for us. It's got its own goal. The speaker is trying to sell you something or something like that. But what if the bus stop could actually be about creating that community, be about that, because it already is, but it's just sort of this dumb, dead thing that maybe doesn't have context, but the conversations would be great. Yeah, I love it. All right, well, we did pretty good. How did everybody feel? How do you feel, Greg? How do you feel? You were our target user. Well done. Well done, Julian.
I'm pretty excited. I'm thinking about the bus stop routine now.
Yeah.
Super fun.
Yeah.
It's cool.
So, and by the way, it turns out creativity is not so hard, right? Like, we can make things in a few minutes. But what I love about what Ting is doing is she's trying to get us to think about the science of choice architecture intersecting with physical architecture, and I'm really grateful that we get to play.
I am too. Thank you.
Any last thoughts or words, Greg or Julian?
For me, just thank you. This was really fun, and crazy how we can get so many ideas out of just simple objects of daily life. So loved it, really. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you, Julian, for all the lovely inputs, and I love your also enthusiasm, responding to the painting of Mickey, and just like I feel your vibes in this, and so glad to have made this COVID friend with you.
Me too.
Moment.
Yeah.
No, we're all COVID friends as well. Four of us.
Well, so Julian, that goes to what I wanted to say. So first, like you, I share gratitude, but two, it's just lovely how in a very quick amount of time, Ting, you created a safe space, right? And Mickey, it takes me back to Fred Rogers, right? Because Fred Rogers knew then what learning science tells us now, that if we create spaces that are physically safe and psychologically safe, those are the places where we can be creative, because we feel comfortable, we feel like we belong, we feel like we can try things. And Ting, you've created something really special in a short amount of time, and it's been a joy to be with the three of you. So thank you.
So Greg, where's your anxiety level now? We heard it at the beginning of the. How are you feeling now?
The anxiety is the water that I've spilled all over my desk. So, no, I feel good.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining, Greg. Thank you, Julian.
Thank you.
This was so fun.
It was so fun. Mickey, I think this is we have this new routine now to say goodbye just as a group. So we used to kind of just bring the guests down first. I think we're just going to say goodbye to everyone. Have a wonderful weekend and have much, much juicy quality connections with people from, 95 centimeters to taller, from 1 year old to 99 years old, and
I'm almost 200 centimeters.
What matters in life is through the activities that we live humanity and we feel humanity, and it's just about humans and the connections among all of us is the most precious and so much invisible to dive into. So thank you all. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.